Here we have a spreadsheet with some fur prices at auction. We're going to use this data to create some charts. You could show this data to someone in a report of some sort, and of course they would see all the raw data that was found. But if you want to actually illustrate a point, raw data in a wall of numbers like this is not going to get the point across very well. It's very difficult for people to pick out the numbers and see how they are in relation to each other. So instead, we'll create a few charts based on this data just to pull it apart in different ways. And the first one asks us to create a pie chart called Relative Pelt Prices for 1987 that includes the pelt prices for all species for the year 1987. So all species for the year 1987, we'll start off by selecting our data. Remember, we want all of it, including the category labels. We're going to do a pie chart. There's only one data series in a pie chart, so these numbers will form the data series. And to begin my chart, I go to Insert, and then Pie Chart. Your ribbon may look a little different if you've got a bigger screen, but for the video I have a smaller screen. So I'll insert a pie chart, and I'll just make it a two-dimensional one. So there's my chart. That was easy enough, but it's not quite the way I want things, so I'm just going to open it up. I'm going to move chart, and I'm going to make it a new sheet. Chart 1 is fine. I'll change that later perhaps. And one of the things you notice is that the data is a little off. It has the species taking up almost more than half, more than 50% of my entire pie chart, because species, if we look at the data here, was 1987. I actually think this is a data point, not the name of my data series. So I've got to fix that, and it thinks 1987 was the price for some species called species, so that's no good. My data is wrong. Usually the first step when we're working on charts is to correct or change which data we want to use. And all of our features for charts that we're going to use will be under the Chart Tools tabs, these various ribbons. And under the Design tab, we find the Select Data. That's our next step whenever we are working with charts. Choose Select Data, and we'll see what it's got. Okay, it's got Series 1, which I can edit and rename species. I could have just typed in species, or you can actually do a reference here. And it has the values. Notice it's starting with 1987, so I better fix that. Its value should just be those data values, not the 1987 is the year, and it doesn't really need that. So I'll say OK. Species over here, again, category axis labels is no good, so I'll get rid of, I'll change my category x-axis labels, or my category labels. There's no axis in the pie chart, of course. And I'll say OK. And now we have something much more reasonable. We've managed to get rid of the these fictitious species. And that will happen every now and then when you select data for a chart. It's a little aggressive sometimes, and it'll pick things that looks like numbers, but in that case it was just a year, and not something we actually want to chart on our pie chart. So it says we want to change the pie chart Relative Pelt Prices for 1987. Our title's up at the top here. You can just double click it to edit relative pelt prices for 1987. So that's where we're putting our title in. And it asks us to put the data points on the chart itself. So we can do this a number of ways. The Layout tab actually will let us choose layout data labels, or we could right-click and add data labels, but I'll use this one up here on the Chart Tools, Data Labels, and I would like to use, on the pie chart itself, Best Fit, wherever the data labels would best go. And, oh, actually, I'm just displaying the numbers here. That's not much good. I want to actually show the not the data labels, but the actual series category name. So I don't want the value, I want the category name. So may have been tricky how I did this. I went to Data Labels, More Data Label Options, and under Label Options, Value is selected, so I unchecked that and I put in Category Name. You can have value as well. Notice over here I get a sort of a preview of what it's going to look like. But I just want the category name. There's a million options. We can explore all the live long day if we want. And I don't, of course, want the legend anymore, so I'll turn off the legend. Here's all the things for controlling that sort of stuff. Axes, chart titles, data labels, and so forth. And it does ask us to explode one of the slices of the pies. You can pick any one. Remember, click once to select the whole data series, the whole pie. Select again to choose just one data point. You'll see I just have handles around the fisher now, and I can drag it out like that. That would be a way of showing it. It's maybe more dramatic if you use a three-dimensional pie chart, but still the effect works. Okay, that was the first chart. Step 2, our second chart, a line chart this time of black bear price trend 1987 to 1980. So just the black bears, just for, sorry, to 1990, not to 1980. So just these, then my data series is going to have one data series, and it's going to have these 4 numbers in it. Just the prices for black bears over those 4 years. So again, as always, I go to Insert. I'm going to choose a line chart, just a regular old 2D line chart, nothing fancy. And it's done something funny here, as we can see before. It's given me 2 data series, one called Species. Again, it's trying to plot these years. And one called Black Bear. And there's where my actual data is, but it's so compressed there I can't see it too well. So first of all, I'm going to move my chart to a new sheet. And now I'm going to change my data because I've got 2 data series in here that I don't want. So I don't want the Species data series. I'm going to remove it. I've just got the black bear data series. That looks good. But notice the data labels down at the bottom for my category. It didn't know what to call them. So it just numbered them, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to edit my category x-axis labels. It gives me this little box, which I can shrink down to nothing, or leave it as is, go back to my data, and choose my axis labels. There they are. They're the years. So I want to see that at the bottom of my chart. Sometimes this is a little bit of a hit and miss approach. There's no perfect solution for this, unfortunately. But we do now get what we wanted to see. Now it does say that we should change the data series line style so it's thicker and smooth. To change something, usually the easiest way is to right-click on it. Format data series, it'll be format data series for a data series, it'll be format legend for a legend, and so forth. Format axis and so forth. Here we want the line style. Instead of 2.25 points, I'm going to make it 5 points. A point is 1/72nd of an inch, in case you're interested. And it also suggests that our line style should be smoothed. And that will just smooth out the kinks in our line. I don't need a legend. I've only got 1 data series. The chart title will tell me that. So I can either go to Layout and choose Legend None, or you can just right-click on it and choose Delete. So no legend. Now, the other thing it mentions is we're not using up all the space. Notice the chart goes from 0 to 100, but the old black bear pelts only are really in between 50 and 90. So I really should change the scale of my axis to maximize all the space of my chart. All this space down here, for instance, at the bottom is just being wasted. So I'm going to right-click on my scale, format the axis, right-click on the axis, format the axis, and what I want to change is, here's the axis options, the minimum. I will make that 50. I'll just type that in. I'll change the maximum. So I'm just clicking and fix to tell Excel that I'm going to decide what the scale of my axis is. I use the word scale because that's what it used to be called in older versions of Excel. And I'll click OK. Much better. Notice my divisions are now by 5 rather than 10. And actually I could go to 55 on the bottom. So why don't I do that? Because there's no data between 50 and 55. So I will format my, whoops, I right-clicked the wrong thing. I'll format my axis, and I'll change the minimum to 55. Get a little bit more use out of my chart. You could be even more picky at the top, but that's, or at the bottom to make it even tighter, but I don't think that's really necessary. One thing I mentioned in class is if you start a chart other than 0, you may confuse people. People may in their heads just think the bottom is 0. And they look at the top and they see that's 90. So they say somehow in 1987, 1988, the pelt price was near $0 and then zoomed up to 90. So you may need to warn people in the accompanying text, no, this chart starts at 55. And whoops, I double-clicked, but I wanted to change my, or right-clicked I should say, I want to change my title for my chart because it should be called Black Bear Price Trend 1987 through 1990. And the dates, of course, are at the bottom, so it's kind of obvious what my dates would be. But there's number 2. That's our second chart of the exercise. Our last chart, this one says we want to create a chart called Pelt Price Comparison 1987 to 2001. So all of the years, but only for a subset of the species. So we're going to have black bears, beavers, coyotes, fishers, and colored foxes. So all of these guys. So I'm going to choose all of the data for 1987 right through 2001. Here's my species names. I'm expecting Excel to be a little aggressive and change my to add in a species maybe like it did in other data series. But really what I want is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 data series, one for each of the animals. So I'm expecting to see that. And I'm going to create here a column chart. So again, insert, this time column. I'm going to pick the boring old column, like so. Yep, lo and behold, it screwed up the data again. It chose species as a species, so I'll just fix that. I'll move my chart to a new sheet just so I can see it a little more large, and then I can go to town editing the data. First of all, getting rid of the species data series, which is not a real data series. And then you'll also notice down at the bottom, again, it's numbered. It doesn't know what to call my category, so it's numbered them. Those were the years. So I want to change my category axis labels. And I'll go back to my data, and I'll choose my category axis labels. There they are, the years. And now we've got some data. Look at our scale is a little bit off. I'm going to wait to the end to change my scale. In this particular chart, we do want, of course, a legend so that I can tell them apart. The little short stubby brown bars are the black bear, then there's the beaver is green, and the fisher way high up price in the late 80s, but then dies instantly, so there must not have been too many fishers these years. That's an indication. And the fox is relatively stable, and coyote goes up and down. So there's a pattern there, probably to do with population of these animals. But we will not worry about the implications of the population, but we'll just worry about making this chart look good. And it says change the value axis scale to minimize the blank space. So again, I'm going to wait for a minute here before I do that. And change the formatting of the value axis labels to show dollar signs and no decimal points. Right now it doesn't show dollar signs. But these are just numbers just like any Excel cell. So I can format my axis and choose number and choose one of my, here again, the same formats that I've seen for numbers in cells on spreadsheets. So I'll check currency and I'll say 0 decimal points. And I'll say close, and here we go, nicely formatted with dollar signs. I could format as percentages or any of the other formats we saw as well. So all of that's available on charts. One thing, I don't have a title, you'll notice, so I better put that in. I find that under layout, under chart title. And centered overlay title or above chart, I think that's outside of the boundaries of the chart. This one would be inside the boundary, so down here, but above chart will actually put it above. There it is above. And I want this to call Pelts Price Comparison 1987 through 2001. One other thing, I don't think it mentions it here, but I haven't labeled my axes. Why don't I do that just for this example? We could have done that for the other charts as well. And again, I'll find that under axis titles. So I can put titles on my axes. So the horizontal axis, I'll put the title below. And this, of course, is the year. Should be fairly obvious given the title of the chart, but in any case. And axis title is the vertical axis. I will, you have some options here, but I'll put it just the regular rotated. It's sideways, notice, but I can still edit it the same way as before, and that would be the pelt price. I can put dollars Canadian or something like that if I chose. Whoops, I don't need to hit return. Click somewhere else to make the handles go away. And the last thing it asks for is that we want a polynomial trend line. This is date. Our data is based on dates, and when we have dates, we can have trends. And it asks us the polynomial trend line of order 3. So to do that, I need to find my beaver data. It's green, so I'll find any of the green bars. Notice how it says series beaver, and it tells me which point and what its actual value is. I'll right-click on that data series, and I can choose Add Trend Line. So you have to be able to pick a data series to add a trend line to it. Just for the beaver, not for the other animals, although you can do that as well. You can have multiple trend lines. Add trend line, it asks us, here's the different shapes of the trend line. Now our beaver population goes down and up and down, so we're going to choose polynomial. It's one that has bends in it. And it asks us to choose order 3. The higher the order, the more the bends. That's the basic rule. I think you can go up to order 6 or so. So when I'm done choosing that, I'll say close. There's my trend line with a couple of bends in it. It's following as best it can the beaver prices, but it does ask us why not change the trend line to sort of forecast in the future. What's going to happen to the beavers in the future if this is the actual trend, if it's a polynomial trend line of order 3? So I'll format my trend line. Again, I right-click very carefully just on top of the trend line, and I'll tell it this time to forecast forward. You can go forward or backwards. And just one period, which would be 1 year. Since each category at the bottom is 1 year, one period would be 1 year. 3 periods would be 3 years. There it goes. It goes actually negative, which means our trend line's probably not that accurate. Our trend line isn't accurate because once the price goes negative, that means, you know, here's your beaver plus your $20 for taking it off my hands. They're actually negative worth. That's probably not the case, but sometimes trend lines will do that. They're not. The trend line is not necessarily a perfect predictor, and it isn't in this case. We also notice that it actually mucked up my scale of my vertical axis to go negative, and I don't want that. So I want to reset my scale to be 0, and also the maximum it ever needs to be is maybe 250, and I'll see all of my numbers. So that's why I like to do this last, so that I capture any weirdness that happens with my my value axis. So I'll right-click on it, Format Axis, and here we go, Fixed Minimum, 0. Even if it goes below 0, just cut it off right there. Don't show anything below 0. We'll see it actually happen in the background there. But I'll change my maximum to 250, just to get better use of the space on my chart. So it's cut off at 0, it's cut off at 250, I have a lot of space. And there is the third chart. And that's the end of the exercise. So the points to bring home about charts is select your data, insert your new chart, make it a new sheet, I suggest, so that you can see it in large form, and then select data. You're probably going to have to adjust your data series and your category labels to make sure that you're not getting nonsense data, like your categories aren't showing up as a data series, which in this case they do or could because our category labels were numbers. We interpret them as years, but Excel doesn't know to, so it interprets them as numbers as a data series as well. If your category labels are text, you won't have that problem because Excel won't be confused about it. That's it.